As we all know, crime is a major issue in the city of St. Louis. In 2018, our city was numbered 4 on a list of top murder capitals of America that was compiled by Neighborhood Scout using crime data provided by the FBI. But things are getting better thanks to initiatives by police, community organizations, and local citizens who have simply had enough. I'm Carol Daniel, and today on The Issues, Safety in the City. We'll talk with families directly affected by violence. We'll hear what they would like to see happen to make St. Louis a safer place to live. That's all coming up on this episode of The Issues. Welcome back and thanks for joining us. We begin today's show with a startling statistic. Missouri has the highest black homicide rate in the United States. That's according to a report by the Violence Policy Center. But we have some guests here tonight. They are not just numbers. They are the mothers of sons and daughters. Joining us today, mothers who have all lost children to acts of violence. This is a program that we believe you need to see. But before we get to their heart-wrenching stories, we want to introduce you to a man who sees the effect of these senseless tragedies. He sees them firsthand. He's doing what he can to make one of the hardest days in many families' lives a little easier when they're forced to bury a loved one lost to violence.
You constantly see some violence in some way, shape, or form. Majority of the people who suffer from gun violence is usually to the head and face. And I have the ability to restore because I am a restorative artist. And that's reconstruction of dead human tissue to create a likeness or a state of naturalism whereby don't have to be closed casket. When people go for a funeral and it's a closed casket, it creates a psychological problem for them because really they're wondering if he's really there or, they didn't get a chance to say what they wanted to say or get a chance to touch and say their goodbyes. So it really brings about some calm, some peace for some of the parents because many times the last vision that they had is the vision of the trauma. Then when they come back and see them in a state of norm, gives them a piece of calm. It's giving them an opportunity to bring some closure, because the fact that giving them a chance to say they farewell.
Too many families in St. Louis are reeling from the pain of losing their children, and they wanted to share their stories with you today in the hope that we can continue to find more ways to keep all of our children safer in St. Louis so no more mothers have to feel their pain. Well, joining us tonight are some of those mothers, and we are so glad and so honored to have them with us this evening. Kim Small is with us. She lost her 30-year-old son, Dwayne Gibbs, February 10th, 2017, at a BP station on Shreve at Interstate 70. The police say a man pulled up beside the car and shot him. The man is in custody. He's claiming self-defense. It has been thought to be a drug deal gone bad, but no drugs, money, or gun was found. Kim Small, thank you for joining us. Our next mother is Elizabeth Watkins. She lost her 28-year-old son, Mark Watkins, in 1990. Mark was visiting a friend at a birthday party. As he left the house, he was a victim of a drive-by shooting. Mark tried to run, but he fell and is believed to have died due to excessive blood loss. Just 1 year later, in 1991, Elizabeth lost another son, Tim Watkins, in Miami. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us. And with us as well, Sharon Webb. She lost her 18-year-old daughter, Kara Davenport. Kara was used as a human shield when a shooting began outside of a house of a friend in Hillsdale. The intended target of the shooting pulled her in front of him. He ended up with just a hand injury. Sharon believes her daughter and the intended target were set up. Sharon also has a cousin, Monique Seitz, who went missing in 2016 and was found dead a year later. We want to thank all of our mothers for joining us on the issues. Thank you all. And we know that this is a difficult conversation. It's a sensitive topic, but we are here for a reason, because we want to hear from you. So Kim, can I start with you? Can you tell us what you miss most about Dwayne?
I miss most about Dwayne is my phone calls every 2 to 3 days, or either he would send me a text. He didn't call me mama, he called me ma. So every 2, 3 days he texts me and say, Ma. Or either he called me and he say, Ma. I miss my every 2, 3 day text.
From him.
From my son.
Elizabeth, what do you miss about Mark?
Well, Mark was a joker, always had a smile, and very kind heart, and he was just funny. And everyone in the family just thought that he was always doing something. He was clumsy, but he was just, to me, a happy person. So that's what.
And Sharon, just 18. What do you miss about Kara?
Oh, wow. I miss Kara's smile. Her look on life. She woke up every day trying to take on the world. And she was just a happy young lady. And, her laughter, and she was family-oriented. So it's a lot that I miss about her.
How has it changed you, her loss? Yeah.
It's changed my whole life.
Yeah.
It's not a day that go by that I don't cry.
Yeah.
You learn to put it on the side of your heart where it don't hurt as bad. But there's not a day that I don't cry, and I have to get up, I go in the bathroom and wash my face and continue on my day, because I have to continue to live. But my whole life has changed. I would never be or know the happiness that I once knew. So it is forever changed.
It's kind of we know that it has had to change you, but how did it change you, Elizabeth?
Well, it made me a stronger person. I never really considered myself as being strong, but it caused me to feel the loss of other mothers when they would lose their children. I would feel, because we all have a different feeling, but the hurt is still there. So it changed my life in a lot of ways.
Kim, we were talking about this beautiful dress you're wearing, and you got it at the Church of God in Christ convention, you told me, and what that tells me, and I know this about all three of you, that you're women of faith. Is that the one way that you're able to put one foot in front of the other every day and remember him calling you Ma? Is your faith?
It's my faith, it's prayer, it's Psalms 121. I will lift up my eyes to the hills, from whence cometh my help. All my help in dealing with coping, getting up every day, the 8 children he had, all my help, it comes from God, because this feeling, or I guess it's a feeling, it's as if your heart, half of your heart is gone, and now you got to try to work with the one half or try to see what you can do to help. I'm like her every day. I cry, I think about him, and I get up. His children motivates me because they all look like him. When they spend the night, they sleep like him, they eat like him, they act. So, you know, it's bittersweet.
Right.
But with the Lord's help, it has changed. I don't have hatred in my heart. I'm not angry. I do try to understand, but I can't. But I know with God's help, because I have to help raise his children. I have to keep going. I gotta keep going, and it's changed. It's different.
Yeah.
Because you see everybody else with their children during the holidays, but with God's help and prayer, I know. I don't know about anybody else. I know I have to. Even coming here, I tried to call and cancel. It's like, okay, let me get myself together. I can do this, Lord. I need your help. I need your help.
Are you Gigi, Mimi, G-Ma?
I am Granny Bucci.
Say it again. Come on, Granny.
I am Granny Bucci. All of my grandchildren call me Granny Bucci, and I call them Granny Bucci. And when they look and see me, they gonna say, Granny Bucci on TV.
Granny Bucci on
I
TV.
am Granny Bucci. I have 13 Granny Bucci's, and he has 8.
Wow.
And they all, every last one, is a Granny
Well,
Bucci.
Granny Bucci, we know that a part of the grief is anger. So you've got his children, grandbabies, who are watching how you are dealing with this. You all have people watching you deal with this. Have you gone through the anger stage, and how much of that, if it's there, is directed at the way the community, society, the police department seems to handle the violence in St. Louis? Have you gone through anger, and is it directed at leadership? Granny Bucci?
I was angry. I don't know if I want to say I was angry. I don't know if that's the word, but I guess we'll go with angry because you said it. I think I was a little angry maybe when I got that phone call. I was upset, but in my walk with Christ, I know you can't be angry, can't have hatred.
Do you have advice for leadership on how to deal, to do a better job so no one else is sitting here? What advice would you give them?
Really investigate.
Really investigate.
Really. They ask people to call in and give out information, and I'm there with it firsthand, and I feel like they don't investigate. Like with my son, we know that that's a game they play, self-defense, but as you say, when they got to the scene, as I know, there was nothing there.
Elizabeth, you're nodding your head at that. What is your feeling?
I go along with her. There was investigation. There was none, as far as my son was concerned. And I even had an officer, detective, to tell me that when you find out some information, then you call me. That's not my job. That was his job to investigate. But my son did not have a police record. He wasn't in a gang, and it was though because they couldn't say, well, he was a gang member and it was because of drugs that he was killed, to blow it out of proportion. He was just somebody dead to them. That was the way I felt. So my anger was at him particularly. And I had anger, but I can't really explain it. I just never had the type of anger toward the person who killed my son because they never found out who it was.
Well, this is obviously a sensitive topic, so we want to thank all of our mothers for their bravery. It really was courageous for them to come and share their stories. When we come back, we're going to add another mother to our discussion. She started an advocacy group after losing her son to violence. And we're going to ask our panel to weigh in on what they think should be done to stop future tragedies. Please stay with us.
There's so many reasons to love St. Louis, you can't pick just one.
What I love about St. Louis is the 79 unique neighborhoods and 108 beautiful city parks, including Forest Park, which is actually larger than Central Park in New York, and the gorgeous Tower Grove Park right here.
And there's always something new to experience, no matter the time of day or the season. So come and experience St. Louis.
Joining us now is a woman who knows all too well the pain of losing a family member to senseless crime. Welcome back to The Issues. Joining what has already been an emotional and enlightening discussion, joining us now, Jeannette Culpepper. She's founder of Families Advocating Safe Streets. They hold a vigil every single year to remember those lost to violence. She began the organization after losing her son. Jeannette, thanks so much for joining us on The Issues.
Thank you for having me.
She and I have talked a lot over the years, and I don't think I knew that Advocating Safe Streets was 27 years old. That is a long time to come together every year to stay focused on violence. Why did you start it in the first place? I know you lost your son, but why?
Well, actually, December 31st, 1991, the first vigil was held in front of City Hall. And I held the vigil because I had noticed throughout the rest of the year that the other people or family members that had lost loved ones, it didn't matter. There was a story that year, which I'm not going to bring up at this time, that got all the news coverage. And it seemed to me at the end of the year that nobody else mattered, no one else count. So I held it down in front of City Hall. I did not start it to have a continuation. That was not my flight.
It was just that one year that you felt that.
I felt the need to say, well, what about mine? And the next year, 1992, I was at home. I said, well, who's going to think about those families? And I continued to have it. We started the organization, or we named it actually in '92. And we had marches all throughout the year, went to murder scenes. But what we basically wanted the people to know in St. Louis, to me, that all mothers hurt the same. Don't one mother hurt any more than the other. I realized that the news only focused on certain cases.
Right.
Like you've got to be a good little kid or to get the ink in the paper.
Or your parent is somebody, if
yeah.
you will. Right.
And so I just wanted them to know that they had another thought coming. So after the end of the year, which is December 31st, everybody always say, why? It's because the year does come to an end. And that particular day just stayed with me, that we commemorate all of those that lives was lost throughout the year. That particular year, I used to do the East St. Louis for the first 5 years. So we read the names from the St. Louis City, County, and for the first 5 years we did East St. Louis. Now it's just St. Louis City and County.
When you say, what about mine, what you're saying is, you guys don't see me. Mm-hmm. Do you think mothers and the rest of you, did you feel or do you feel sort of invisible? Like, do you have the what about me, what about mine feeling too?
To me, one child is just as important as another child when you lose a child through violence. Like I had said earlier, you know the hurt and what the family is going through. And it just, it's like a link in a chain, and you remove that one link and you try to put it together again.
And you can't.
And you can't because it's a missing link. Even though they all look the same, they are not the same.
But if you look at the community, the city, the county as a chain, and Black Lives Lost is a link, Sharon, do you feel like nobody cares about that link?
I do. I really do. When Kara was murdered, they thought that or reporting that a dog had been missing was more important than my daughter.
Oh.
And that angered me. And I had to get out and fight to let them know that she had a life, she had a face, she had a future, and her life meant something. So yeah, it was, you know, what about me? And I would tell the detectives, hey, you know, she's not your daughter, but I want you to treat her case just like she is your daughter. And you know, of course, a African-American young lady, she had a couple of tattoos, and she had on red and white the night that she was murdered, and they thought that she was in a gang, or, you know, and no. And once they found out, then, you know, you want to apologize to me. But, you know, after you've, you know.
What did they apologize exactly for?
Because they found out.
For assuming she was in a gang?
Yeah, once they found out that, like, you know your children 99%. There's always that 1% you don't know. But I knew Kara, and like I told them, whether she was right, wrong, and different, I want to know what happened to my child. And once they had all these interviews with people, the only thing they came and told me that nobody had anything bad to say about my daughter. You know, and I think they should have called the cold case squad in at that time. So, but they didn't. So Kara's murder today, 18 years later, it'd be 19 years. March 26th is still unsolved.
Jeannette, families advocating safe streets. Advocacy is an action. So what do the families of crime victims in St. Louis need that they're not getting?
Well, for one thing, like I said, so many parents contacted me and said, well, it wasn't on the news no more than that one day, and we all know it'll come on at 10 o'clock, you won't hear it at 9, and then they'll just brush it on through, black men gunned down, blah, blah, blah. And that family wants answers. They want to see that same action that other cases did, that they got, but they didn't get it. And they just want to be treated equally. It's not to be asking for any more, any less, just treat us equal. And we know for a fact that black on black is not treated like black on Caucasian. There's no ifs and buts about that.
Right.
But they play on our intelligence and tell us that they all get worked on the same. We know that's a lie. Because I didn't get a dog to catch the helicopter. So don't tell me.
Meaning you didn't get search dogs?
I didn't get that.
Didn't get...
So don't tell me you treat them the same, because if you did, then I would have had the dogs and the cats and the rats and whatever you want to bring out.
And we know they don't use cats, but
yeah, but the point of it, you brought up everything.
They're not using search.
Yeah.
And for Kim, you're having lost a black son, and he was 30.
Yes.
Right. This is particularly emotional for you, angering for you, frustrating for you, because black men. And let me ask it in the form of a question: do you believe that the deaths of black men are treated differently?
Yes, they are treated differently.
What did you experience that you should not have?
Well, the experience that I got was when, and I don't know if you are going to air this, is doing, I guess his name was the Gryden, when he had relations with whoever and he was in, and the Kimberly Gordon, they went out and they hired this big time person to do the investigation. I felt some type of way because it wasn't murder. That's a marital issue. You hired whoever this man is, and you all know who. I can't get it together because
they hired an outside attorney
to help
investigate
attorney to come in
the Governor Gryden's case
to investigate someone having intimate relationships, and my son is murdered, and you hired nobody. Yeah, I took it to Kimberly Gardner's office. I did, because I felt some type of way. This is sex. My son was murdered. and you can't even get the people in your office. But you go out and pay all this money for this guy to come in, investigate somebody having. That's what this got to do with my son took 5 to the chest, and y'all not doing anything. And can I say something else?
Sure.
Just like that police officer, the one shot somebody, she was on TV talking about who she was bringing in to investigate, and they have my condolences. But when my son was murdered, you never made no appearance, and the day that my son died was the deadliest Friday. There was 4 murders. He was number 3. There was 2 Saturday and 1 at Aldi's, and it was 2 Sunday, and you did not come on TV. But the other day, I look, and now you on TV.
Jeannette, what is your advice? Because that's passion, that's anger, that's frustration that you hear all the time
maybe it didn't happen.
from family members.
Did it happen? I don't know.
Well,
Yes.
It did? Okay, I want to make sure.
Well, what it is that the society that we live in.
Right.
This is St. Louis. Should have a name, it should be Mississippi. But they have that certain things.
We
that
all
they,
caught that.
Yeah,
Well, we caught
right,
that.
Right, but that's how they treat it. So the media done ran over there to her, but the media not going to run her for our black kids. So that's how it is. It doesn't matter. I mean, like I listen to Kim Wex all the time, and I listen how they even bring on the news, like I say in the morning, they come back and it's brushed off. So they gave a care about her, and quite naturally to being a police officer, they are. But they're not going to run over there to her. They're not going to run out to the chief and say, hey, you just had, I think, 2 last night killed on Donica.
What's your advice to, and I knew we were going to run out of time, what is your advice to family members? Should they call and don't give up? What should they do?
Yeah.
Well, what I did, I took to the streets and went back to the blood stain where my son laid, and I did my own investigation. And because the detectives at that time had a habit of telling you, keep me informed.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I know one mama, you didn't tell her to keep informed. You told her, I'll get them. So just do the same thing for us.
Okay.
And so you didn't.
That's the advice. Do the same
Fight for yourself.
thing for us and fight for yourself. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining us. This is an important discussion, and I pray it won't be our last. I pray it won't be our last. We want to thank all of our mothers for joining us today, as clearly the discussion is far from over. In our next episode of The Issues, we're going to talk to the police. We're going to talk about initiatives to improve community relations and ultimately to decrease crime in our city. So far, as we begin 2019, efforts are underway and they are showing an improvement. St. Louis Police Chief John Hayden recently announced in a town hall meeting that homicides and violent crimes are down in the new year, and that is good news. We'll have more on that next time. Once again, thank you to our guests for joining us, for sharing their very personal stories today on The Issues. You can join the discussion too. Be sure to check us out online at Facebook, on YouTube, we're everywhere, Twitter and Instagram. Don't forget to download the free STL TV app. Do that right now. That's it for this episode of The Issues, but keep it right here on STL TV and Experience St. Louis.